Yeah, what's going on, Gooners and Goonerettes? In the paper this week, Lyon's Lucas Paqueta has been in the news. The Lyon president has been talking about, which he always does, who needs a transfer guru when you've got Lyon's president? Who needs the media when you got this guy just blurting out all the news left, right, and centre? Because, as you know, Lyon's president is an expert at blurring out transfers in order to try and increase the cost and the value of his players. He believes, like some other owners, that the more buzz you can create about the player, the higher the player's value will become. And that's exactly what's going on with Lucas Paqueta. Look, I'm not going to lie, I love the player. He's one of the top upcoming stars. Costs around 38 million for them. They did invest in him quite hugely, and he is an absolutely outstanding player on the ball. Hard for me to really compare him to anybody else because he has those Sami Nasri touches, but he has the build and the frame of a player who's much bigger. But now it's become clear that he is higher on the list than Lazio's Sergi Savic. Now, I think this plays into the hand of Lyon's president because the price now, the price tag for him is talking in excess of 68 million. That would be them pretty much doubling their investment that they paid for the player. I don't know whether that's something that Arsenal are willing to do. If you look at something like the Lisandro Martinez deal, where he was initially worth 25 million, and then United came in with a low bid of 30 million euros, which probably works out about 25 million pounds. Then Arsenal came in with another bid of around 30 million pounds. Now they're talking about Man United coming in at 50 million euros and they're rejecting that. So I think with Lisandro Martinez from Ajax, I think it's just got into silly land. It's got into la la land. And when things like that happen, a club like Arsenal has no option but to just walk away. You can't say that they haven't competed for the player. They've chased him, they've talked to him, he's an admirer of Mikel Arteta. Arsenal have bid in a good amount of money for a player, quite frankly, who isn't even guaranteed a starting spot. He's been scouted and brought in to be a squad player. And when you're talking about in excess of 50 million, now a lot of people feel that Arsenal feel that they'll be able to pull off the deal for Paqueta. But honestly, I think that this is just the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up to 70, 75 million. What you're looking for is squad players. If you're looking in to bring players in like Fabio Vieira and Tielemans and like that, you want them in the rotation. You want them to be a part of what you're doing on the field. And you can do that for the cost of around 30 million. When you're starting to talk about 65, 70 million, that's stardom type of money. And Arsenal have been burnt with that kind of money before on the likes of Pepe, where, you know, it didn't work out in that way for him. But for Arsenal, I just don't think in any right mind any player's worth that amount of money. I really don't. I mean, some of the Arsenal fans were talking about, yeah, let's pay 100 million for Nkunku, or let's get a striker like Alexander Isak for 80, 90 million. And then you end up going to buy Gabriel Jesus for 45 million. I mean, you just can't make it up how you have some men in the office who are doing their jobs and they're working out the money and the funds because we have so much bums to put on seats. Entering the season with just 17 players in the squad, Arsenal cannot simply afford to spend 70 million on one player. So that's the reason why I see this deal not working. But I think if you come to some kind of conclusion and you offer around 50 million for the player and then try and see if that works, I don't think it will. But I mean, at least it would be an option. But so far in the market, guys, we have Marquinhos, Fabio Vieira, Matt Turner, Gabriel Jesus. And the only one who's officially left so far is Lacazette. Although there's news now that Bernd Leno and Fulham deal is getting close. And also there's other teams that have started to come in for Bernd Leno as well. So at the moment, negotiations between Arsenal and Fulham are still ongoing in regards to Bernd Leno. And as I said, this is a guy, he hasn't played much in the preseason, and you can see that Arsenal are really protecting their investment there. But I just want to also talk about Kante. Now, do you guys remember Willian? Yeah, Willian, good player for Chelsea, one of their main facilitators. At the time, he was the fourth highest creative player in the Premier League. Come to Arsenal on a bumper deal in his 30s and just died. And if anyone hasn't learned any lessons from that, then you're probably never going to. The reports came out straight away saying that this is not true. Arsenal are not interested in him, and it's bare rubbish. So, look, I know that they would prefer to keep Kante at 31 years old, but he's just not considered a priority for Chelsea. So I don't see why Arsenal, having to build the midfield where they are, they've got literally Tielemans in their lap, which I'll come on to next. And there's just no way that you should, involve yourself into someone like Kante, who, by the way, over the last 2 seasons has been very, very injury prone. So I just wouldn't bite on that one. As far as Tielemans is concerned, now the Tielemans thing, we know they've been talking to him since February. So this has been long going for Arsenal. That's not a problem. But so far, Arsenal have just failed to initially come to Leicester City with a bid. And I don't think any other teams will, because it's now at the time where the player's saying, look, the only place I want to go to now is Arsenal. He did initially talk about Barcelona as being a team that he wanted to go through, but they have no interest in the player. So from that perspective, his ties with Arsenal has been quite solid. Now, for me, you just take your time in getting this deal done and make sure it's right. And at the same time, hope that Leicester can drop some of their demands, because we're hearing it's now gone up to 30 million. So I think, guys, players in the last year of their contracts are now a thing of the past, because before, when we could get these players as cheap as chips, it seems that that's no longer the case. And teams are now being able to cash in on players with a year left on their contract to go. So I think that that's the norm now. Before, remember when we had the likes of Henry or Van Persie, whose contracts was running down, ended up leaving Arsenal for 16 million, and 24 million was Van Persie. I think those days are gone now. The thing about the transfer market, guys, is you will pay whatever the going rate is, as in terms of your desperation. I think the transfer market has changed now, guys, because prices are you will pay whatever it needs to be paid in order to get the player in. And you can look at Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus. You're talking about 95 million for 2 players, both in the last year of their contract. Man City have done hugely well out of that deal for, quite frankly, 2 players in your last year, which should have gone for 20 or 25 million. But and they've been able to get double their amount of money because of how simply easy it is to just coax a team into paying whatever they want because of the desperation of getting buys and getting deals in. So I think from that standpoint, I just don't think that last year's mean anything to anybody anymore. As for William Saliba, guys, we've seen on Instagram where he signed fans' paper with the number 2 on there. And we know that he wants his number 2. But the return of William Saliba to the Emirates has to be a sign that they're strengthening the area. And it could suggest, and I'm not saying it is, it could suggest that they might be willing to move on Gabriel if they can get a good deal for him. We know Juventus has been a big admirer of Gabriel, but I just don't think that they would do that. I mean, why would you sell a huge commodity like Gabriel when you're trying to build a team? So I think he's key to Mikel Arteta's plans, and I just don't think that they would sell Gabriel at all. But the stronger the squad, with Holding, with Ben White, with Gabriel and William Saliba there, I think that is as good as quartet as any in the league defensively for making a stand and run at the Premier League title. Last transfer news is Arsenal have understood to have submitted an opening bid for Benfica's Alex Grimaldo. Now, the offers are said to be around the 6 million mark for the Spanish left back. And again, this is the reason why they've pulled out of the likes of Lisandro Martinez, because when you're talking about them kind of caught up into foolishness money, then it's quite easy to see when there's players like this available for about 6 million, then you can go in and then you can make it work. And I don't think that you have to be in a position where you have to spend all this kind of crazy money just to get into a war. There's plenty of other players out there. You all saw Aaron Hickey go to Brentford for 14, 17 million. So there is no excuse to go out there and be spending all this crazy money on the likes of Lisandro Martinez. Alex Grimaldo is a Spanish left back. He's very good, very technical player, good defensively. He has 1 year remaining on his deal in Portugal, and I think that that would be a great option. I really do. So it's going to be interesting what happens there, but I think that we should be pursuing that. And if that happens, I can't see Tavares staying at the club. Even if he goes out on loan, I think that there's teams offering 30, 35, 40 million euros for the player. And I just don't think that this is a situation where, with all that money being looked at, you just keep the player. The last thing that I want to tackle is congratulations to Jack Wilshere. It's not been officially announced yet, but Pierre Mertesacker said it's basically done, and he'll be working under the likes of Mertesacker and Arteta in terms of being in the mix as the new under-18s coach. Now, I look, it's just the natural form of things, and we're starting to see a lot of these Arsenal greats that are coming back to the club in a different capacity, and I welcome it. And look, if there's a player that is more loved than Jack Wilshere for Arsenal, I would want to know who it is, because he is Arsenal through and through. And I think it would be an amazing thing if Wilshere came in and was just a part of the process. Remember when we were all saying he was sad, a little bit mental depression, didn't know where he wanted to go, and he was worried about his job and his future. So for something like this, it must be beautiful for him to see a bright future at the club he loves, being around the kids, inspiring them, coaching them, and really learning his trade as an Arsenal man in charge of the under-21. So I welcome it. So congratulations to him. So I'll be going on to cheer Jackie Boy and the team on whenever that starts to happen. But that's it from me, guys. Listen, I'll speak to you guys in the next one. Peace out.